All right. Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Amuna, and I pray everybody is doing well. Look, this is live, okay? A little unorthodox because I'm looking down the road and I'm like, oh yeah, today and tomorrow gonna be a little sticky, isn't me? So I'm gonna come through and do a live reading because I'm not going to have enough time to pre record this. So I said, let's get our reading in live. So I hope you don't mind the impromptu. So for those who have just joined us, the last time we saw Sadella and Bob, brother Bob, I don't know why that tickles me. What's going on, everybody? This is unorthodox because the pre-record naga happen today and tomorrow, right? So I'm going to do it live. The last time we saw brother Bob, he went to America, okay? And yeah, and so Rita, he told Rita's like, yo, dear Bob, I saw Selassie. And Bob was like, Tanayayad, right? So let's go ahead and continue from there. Once again, I'll come to the comments after I'm finished because this is live and I usually do this pre-recorded. So let's go. She says, the first days after Bob went to Delaware, I'd been devastated, totally devastated, really lost. What is this? I kept asking myself. Married 2 days ago, madly in love, and now he's gone. The same thought that Sadella probably was thinking some 20 years earlier, right? In my head, and sometimes aloud, I kept singing all the love songs I knew, but they kept turning into songs about loneliness and how much I miss him. But at the same time, I had to remind myself that I was now a married woman for one thing, and two, I had to remember that my husband had gone to find a job and I had a daughter who had to be maintained. Listen, y'all, I don't want to go up too much, but let's just remember what we read in the DOJ paperwork, okay? So keep that in mind while we read it. All of this brought me back to the same position I'd been in before the whole idea of marriage had intervened. Who bring up the idea? Them say Coxon. Some people said this, but we know he got in trouble for marrying because it changed his status, right? So let's continue. Should I carry on singing or go back to nursing? Because remember, she kept leaving Sharon at home and Auntie was looking after the baby and she kept going to the studio. Yeah, she had to remind herself that she was married. Shout out to everybody who just joined us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Because I guess it was all new for her. And then boom, the man was gone. So it's kind of like she's alone again. All right, cool. At night, I'd lie awake trying to decide. Should I go find me a job or what? Should I continue to be around Peter and Bonnie and all the others at Studio One? Remember, Bob tell her. Oh, wait, let me read that part there. Wait, let me tell her what Bob said. But Bob's response was, Dear Rita, I got your letter. Please take it easy. Don't go anywhere. Don't go smoking at anybody's place. Stay at home and read and take care of yourself and the baby. And that Bob said, Bob said, Tana your yard. That means he gave explicit instruction as the man of yard. Say you're not supposed to go nowhere. Now she's stressed because why? She's still at Auntie's yard. She has no resources. Bob is gone. And yeah. So now she's thinking, yo, what should I do? What should I do? But this is key because Bunny Whaler's letter came back to my mind. Because, I was like, yo, find what's under all of this, anger. What is it? Bunny Whaler's letter came back to my mind, but I'm not going to read that right now. Just keep that, stick a pin right there. Yeah. Bob says social distance. All right, cool. It says here, so now she's asking, because now it's going to kind of look weird. Like your dude, remember she told the reporter when we read the German newspaper or the article that she always thought she was going to marry who? She always thought she was going to marry Peter. Okay. And so now Peter and Bunny do not come to the wedding. And not too long after Peter and Bunny don't show up at the wedding, she's showing up at the studio by herself and her husband is not here. That's kind of weird. That's going to now be kind of weird. So Bob's solution is Tanayayad, but Rita wants to do music, right? Rita wants to do the solettes. Rita wants to make some money. So now she's in a precarious situation. It goes, should I continue to be around Peter and Bunny and all of the others at Studio One? Other the others need man on man, right? When I was going man on man, that means like it's a whole lot of dudes around there. Should you be in this environment? Dream or Vision, as he was now known, was ready and always available. And as the Solettes still had a name, we figured we still had a chance. So here she had to decide between her new man, Brother Bob. Should she obey his instructions or should she pursue her career? Okay, let me continue now. If I wanted to, of course, we had maintained our connection to the studio, and Coxon continued to ask us to do background vocals for other groups. Delroy Wilson, Lord Creator, Tony Gregory are a few I remember. Bob didn't want me to go to the studio, it seemed. It didn't seem. It didn't seem. Shout out to everybody who's just joined us. He told you explicitly, dear Alpha Rita, Tanayaya. So, but again, I could understand where she is because he's telling you that, but you don't have any money, so you kind of broke too. You understand what I'm saying? And you at auntie looking at you like, what are you really doing? And it seems like she had this anxious attachment style as well. That's another story. But relationship wise, she looks like she has an anxious attachment style. And it could be understood. She has her mother dipped on her. Her dad is no longer there. Her brother is out being a policeman. Bob is in America. So she's trying to see what she could do for herself. Let's continue. It says, Bob didn't want me to go to the studio, it seemed. Stay home and take care of your baby, he would write. Always stay home. So it's not seem. It's not seem. Okay. You know exactly. If that's what he was writing, that's what he really thought in his heart of hearts. Okay. It says, he would never say, go find you a job, though he knew I had to have money coming in from somewhere. We wrote each other almost every day. Letters would be in and out. And if that postman passed my gate without stopping, my heart sank because I'd look for a letter every day, no matter if I'd gotten one yesterday or the day before. That's what I just said before. Shout out to everybody who's just joining us. I'm going to come to the comments in a second. She sounds like she has an attachment, anxious attachment style. She always has to have reassurance, right? And it's based on where she's coming from, right? So let's continue. So right, we want to see where did it go wrong? How did he love this woman so much, and then all of a sudden his spirit changed? Like what happened? Something had to happen. If somebody said, "No, Mona, it was love. It wasn't trauma band. It was pure love." Okay, so when did the love go cold? Right? When did this thing turn? We could find out then, no? To me, this space right here, even though it's when I first read it, it didn't take note because I hadn't read all the other stuff yet. But now that I'm reading this again with new eyes, just in her going out amongst his brethren, them knowing that she had eyes for Peter, or Peter had eyes for her, or she's in the studio, knowing all of that, he may have felt like uneasy about that situation, or when he comes home and hears, right? Let's go on. It says here, but despite Bob's constant advice to stay home and take care of Sharon, Dream and I went to the studio whenever we were asked. Huh? You're what? Go Bob, you all right, man. They talk about me must stand a yard and me not no money. Me, I got studio. So she totally disregarded. Remember, Bob got a little bit of abandonment issues too. You understand what I'm saying? So let's continue. So she was like, despite, but conjunction, okay? Despite Bob's constant advice to stay home. That you really kicked the honeymoon off, right? Nice and good, bro. You could have made some back juice and sell all the cola. Like you could have did something, bro. Take care of Sharon. Dream and I went to Studio One whenever we were asked to do background vocals for Peter or for Bunny or whoever else Coxon was recording and wanting us to work with. Peter and Bunny could be salty. You go hide, marry them brethren, run off. You did like Peter, no you like Bob, no you try eat where you way in, and know you're there without him. You know as in come them attack. In light of Bunny Wailer's letter, open letter, if I have time, I'm gonna go back and read it. Because I'm thinking like he's spouting off all kind of stuff, but on this particular situation, is he referring to something? We know she's there without Bob. Let's continue. Nevertheless, even with keeping myself busy and Bob's letters keeping up my spirits, Sometimes I feel lonely. I feel lonely and lost after a studio session. Remember the last time she did tell us that she feel lonely. I saw Taki come in that situation, you know. When I say something, I say that kind of language, that kind of just thinking, when will I see my husband? My question is, now that you're writing him, right? Are you telling him, Bob, go ahead, me I got studio anywhere because I need money? Like, did you tell him in all of these correspondences that you were doing every day that you outright disobeyed his desires and you went to the studio anyway? Like, did you tell him that, or did he find that out when he got home? Because if you told him, that could have softened the blow. But if he found out when he got home, then he's going to build a distrust for you, even if you didn't do anything, right? Go on. It says, and missing him, everything about him, his voice, his music, and then going home and saying to myself, when am I going to go to America? So Rita wanted to go to America. She was like, they said Bob came to America to make money. This is another contrast. Bob came to make money so that he can buy studio equipment. But Rita is like, I wanted to go to America. That separation was a trial for me. I was a strong young lady, true, but it would get me down. Sometimes when people said, I heard you're married to Robbie. Where is he? Oh man, oh that stings. Like, Amy, you say just married a husband there. That stings, bro. Him not there. One of his old girlfriends, a girl named Cherry. So what? Even before Rita, him have an old girlfriend named Cherry. Okay, even accosted me to say that was my man. What? Matey, matey, our wifey buck up. I went through all that without him even being around to defend me. But Bunny told her not to mess with me and that Bob would come home and kill her if she did. Why am I kill her for? That not that necessary? Anyway, it took Bob a while to reveal to his mother that he was married. Sadella Booker had known about me, or at least about a girl named Rita from my letters. She knew, wait a minute, didn't you say, she more than knew about you. Didn't you say you took over the letter writing and you were writing her? She knew we had been dating, knew I was his girlfriend, but nothing about the wedding. You know, something like that happened to me in real life. Like somebody I know, that secret wedding thing, and then they found out about a secret wedding, and I'm like, huh? What? So I could understand kind of how Bunny and Peter would have felt. Like, especially you know the person and they just pop up like, yeah, surprise, surprise. And you're like, what? It kind of make you feel that way. You know what I mean? So now they're not only doing this to his brethren then, but they're doing it to his mother too. Like, what in the world? It says, after he finally admitted to it and she asked him to describe me, he said, oh, mama, you should have seen her. You'd have like her. She work and she rule. And Miss Booker said, what do you mean by that? And he said, if she walk in and you see her from the back, she rule. I'm just going to keep going because I'm just not, it's late and the jokes, I'm just keep going. When I heard this story, I wondered what he could mean until I realized it was my knock knees that did it. Some people think it's sexy. Let's continue. Married or not, his mother sent his sister to check out my house, I guess to find out where I lived. Remember, cross-reference, Sadella finds out, and she told us that she got a call from Jamaica, like quick o'clock, like, why Sadella here, said Bob married. So Sadella finds out before Bob gets there, according to Sadella. So I don't know what the timeline on this is, but according to Sadella's book, she heard it to the grapevine. You know what I mean? That Rita and Bob was supposed to be together. Let's continue. So anyway, she go send us code. What's up with that? She said, I guess to find out where I had lived, whether I was good or bad looking, whether I never knew what they were looking for. But when her sister came to see where I had been raised and saw that the walls of my room were decorated with pictures from magazines, like all teenagers, I had put up posters and pinup pictures. Mrs. Booker's sister wrote her to say that I was such a poor girl that I lived in a house with cardboard walls. Because remember, Sadella, City trying to get out of Dodge, and City's doing all of this so Bob could level up. So she's like, Bob, you hustling backwards, bro. I left you there for 2 seconds, and now this is what you went and did. So city, plus I had a baby. So in America, they were all disappointed. But by then, there was nothing to be done. We were on our way. And we remember that we heard from the DOJ interview that, and if you missed that video, I forgot what the name of this is, but it's in the playlist. That Bob tells the investigator that he married her because she was pregnant, but then she lost the baby. So he wanted to bring her to America. Remember that? Right. So Rita's saying, oh, he just wanted to marry me before he left. But the mother and Bob is saying that she was pregnant and lost the baby. That's the story, right? It wasn't long, only 8 months. We know it wasn't long before Bob decided to leave Delaware. Did he decide, or did the immigration officer said, if you have to voluntarily leave the country, would you do so at your own expense? And him say yes, because he had the proper paperwork. His mother said he'd been worried about me. She was surprised that he loved me more than he loved the United States. She couldn't understand why, even though she'd never met me. She had been sure. You see why this don't make no sense? Because remember, they married so that Rita could go to America. So if in the beginning she's waiting for her turn to go to America, why is they painting the picture like this? Why? I don't understand why. I don't understand why. She couldn't understand why, even though she'd never met me, she had been sure that America was his dream. Come on, City. That sounds like somebody gassing it up, because you was begging him to come for years. My man had his visa from since you came back for Pearl. So he wasn't pressed to go to America. And his family there had done everything to entice him to stay, even brought him pretty girls after they found out he was married. That sounds weird. Brought him pretty girls? What, to give him bun? Like, I'm trying for him to get bun. But Bob had his own reasoning for leaving America. Yeah, we know. Poor thing. He'd worked first in Chrysler factory, then at Hotel DuPont, yeah, without no paperwork, in Wilmington. When at last he gave up, he wrote me, I'm coming home. I'm sick of this place. Today, while I was vacuuming, the vacuum bag burst and all the dust went in my face. The poor boy. Mm-mm-mm. If I stay here, this is going to blink him, okay? Take him out. He wrote, it will give me all kinds of sickness, he says. He says that he's a singer and he's not this, so he's coming home. Why did they paint it like that? I'm not going to harp on it, but let's continue. So we got to understand that we over here with a paintbrush. The paintbrush is being painted on this story a little bit based on the factual paperwork. Okay. Right, Lucy. Lucy's asking. I think that's afterwards. Sedella has the wedding pictures in her house. This is taking place at the first time. So this would have to be 1960. When does he leave? 66. February of 66. So this is the first time that he goes to Delaware. I don't want to misquote here. Yeah, this is 66. This is the first time that he goes to Delaware. He's supposed to go through and get paperwork. His mother files for him. He's being sponsored by Mr. Booker. He marries Rita. This is just a recap for those who missed the breakdown in the DOJ paper. Marries Rita right before he leaves, 2 days, right? But according to his visa status or his paperwork status, he's getting filed under dependent. So when he married Rita, it violated his status. And they found out when he went to the immigration interview that August of that year. So from February of that year to August of that year, he doesn't have permission to work, right? And he's working. He gets a job 1 month after he arrives. And B, he violated the status that he was under because he got married, so he could no longer be a dependent. And so the whole Dolly house had mashed up. And then the interviewer was like, yo, if push comes to shove, they're going to dip you, or you can leave voluntarily. And so he leaves and he comes back to Jamaica in November of 66. So that's kind of like the update of what's happening. Maybe Sedella gets his pictures later on, but this is the initial, like initially no one knew except for Cox and Dodd, the auntie, the person who married them, and well, I guess the newspaper. And then according to them, it was announced after the marriage took place, and now everybody knew, right? So that's to that. I'm gonna come through here and then I'm gonna keep going. Okay, I thought Bob's mom told him to wed him really when he first said that he was thinking about marrying her. This is before he left. According to Bob, Rita lost the baby in September of 65, right? And so he was telling his mother, he was kind of like fishing, I suppose. Like, yo, I met a girl, I'm thinking about marrying her. And then his mother's like, oh, why are you going to marry her? And he was like, she pregnant. And then the mother says that being pregnant is no reason to marry somebody, right? You should marry for love. So that would have been, according to him, the baby at that time was she lost in September, but November, September, October, November, December, January, February, he doesn't marry her till 5 months later. So whatever the rationale was 5 months later, it's not like he married her in the September. He married her 5 months later for whatever that reason is. Jerry, I'm not giving that joy. Think me, I'm gonna marry my mother, I don't know. Yeah, yeah, Bob, you married and your mother didn't know. Cut it out. Um, yeah, she, how many people thinks that you brand new married, right? How many people think that this could have started the wedge between them? You brand new married, you met your husband at the same time you met his brethren them. You did like off one of his brethren them, and I don't know how much the brethren liked off you. You got married in secret. He's telling you, yo, chill off the spot. Don't go around there. And you're like, I'm going to go around there anyway because I'm going to do this music. How many people think that that could have caused the wedge between them just because he expressed to you that he didn't want you around it and you went anyway, right? So how many people think that would have caused the wedge? I'm going to read some of this and then I'm going to keep reading. Yeah, she flighty, flighty. I don't know. It's some flighty, flighty vibe. Shout out. Thank you for the island book. Big up. Thank you for the island twist. Big up. Let me know how you like it. I'm definitely gonna check my email. Hey, shout out to everybody who's sending me links, video, article, enough stuff out here, man. Sometimes I may get a little moment, me stop and read it and listen. So definitely, I see all the emails and I see all the links, and as time permits, I go through them so that I can share and be, each one teach one. We all learning together. So, all right, let's continue to read. Let's continue to read. Let's continue to think. Okay, well, if Sedella advised him not to marry Rita just because she's pregnant, it makes sense he didn't feel comfortable. Right, right. I think when we call it details of her life, it's not linear. It's not linear. It's shaped by emotional state of that time in the present moment, which can, yeah, it can. I think it does. Recall is not. That's why people say stuff like, "If memory serves me correctly." Why do people say that? Because sometimes memory don't serve correctly. You remembering it from wherever you were, and that may not have been the fullness of the story, but that's what you remember based on, like you said, Lucy, wherever you are in that situation. So let's continue here, right? Boom. So she never listened. She got in a studio, sing do wap, do wap. She did a studio, right? And Bob said, oh, done with this, man. I go home because what? I'm done with DuPont and Firebun. Okay, let's continue. The whole homecoming scene was so very good. You could tell when something sweet Rita, because she tells the editors to italicize and lean the joint. So it was so very good and felt so long overdue. It didn't seem like 8 months. It seemed like forever that I had waited for that moment to see him coming out into the terminal. And there he was looking at me, his head to the side, as if he was just longing to put eyes on me, just the same way I was feeling. And poor Bob, Regin, stop calling man poor Bob, man. Chud. Uh, you looked at him and you just felt sorry for him. And I kept feeling this way about him, even though my love for him is a deep, true, lasting love, of course. But there was something about sorrying for him that still is in me today. I don't want to give the sorry for y'all fill in the blank of that Caribbean proverb, okay? Because he did turn around and bite you several times, okay? Though he had left with only one bag, now he had one over his shoulder and another and a suitcase in his hand. We hugged and kissed, and he said, yeah, man, I'm back. And my mother sent some things for you and Sean, and I bring a dress for you and things like that. And I just had the chance to say, ooh, before Dream and Auntie grabbed him. And Sharon even remembered how to say Bahu. And we were all glad to see him. Well, Auntie did glad to see him. I think Auntie never liked Bob. Auntie said, what Bob, a foreign you come from? But then on the way home, he said, "You not ready for this? Ready for this? Make sure you not drink nothing." But then on the way home, he said, "Where you not fix up yourself? What happened to your ear? I was wearing it natural." He seemed puzzled more than critical. And I guess after American Woman, I look different. How are you going 8 months waiting to see, oh boy, this is how he left you. And when he come back, he was like, what to your head top? Oh, it looks picky picky. And he ain't saying picky picky, but like, how would you interpret what happened to you? What happened? Why your hair looked like that? Like she knew she was coming to see him. So I'm confused, but let's continue. With him gone, I'd been into reading and trying to confirm that whatever he had said wasn't simply herb talk or something he picked up on the street. And ever since seeing the dark spot, no, she ain't gonna go back to the dark spot on Selassie's hand, fam. I felt more secure about being a part of the Rastafarian movement. Rita, Rita, Rita. But the day he came home, none of that stayed on my mind very long. We got home, ate dinner, played a little music, sneak out into the alley for a little smoke, and then went straight to bed. And it was like, woo, heaven. And that's how heaven is. She said, fine. And that's how she want go. You see what happened? You see what Rita did want to do? She didn't want love was waking. Yo. You. Welcome to those who just joined us, man. Listen, I had to come live today because I'm not gonna have time to do my usual pre-recording. So I hope you guys don't mind the live reading. Let's get it. Let's go. You shot me there now. So no, she go get peace now. I even she gone now. And even after the first excitement wore off, I noticed a little affection being laid on me, whether from missing me or another reason. I didn't know. I wonder if he know yet say she did a go around nice studio. This make me feel like him never know. Because him look like a type where who will have you up. So it made me feel like he didn't know she was around the studio. He could have known, but it don't feel like that. Whenever I was very happy about it, love can bring out the best in anyone, I guess. And it was great to realize all over again how much we loved each other. This is where we had a nice time. Yes, definitely. This is about a nice time. Long time. Well, sing the song. We not have a nice time. Do you, do you, do? Okay. Think about that. She was thinking about it. The little money Bob brought back was just enough to go into the studio with Bonnie and Peter to record a few of his earlier songs, like Nice Time. Long. Now, I forgot to sing it now, because now she'll give me the lyrics. Long time, we not have no nice time. She not put do you think about that? I want to go on there, sir. Let me continue. As he did then, and as he always would, he was just naturally singing about his feelings. So we went into love making and family making. First was to be Sadella, my second daughter named after Bob's mother, but whose pet name is Nice Time, just like the song. So she need to stop. Coming to Sister Della, I say, me name Nice Time. Yes, Sadella, but I think they were talking about the activity in which the nice time was had. You understand me? I say, yeah, your name Nice Time for the nice time. Long time. Anywho, what could say? I love your readings. You're gifted. Give thanks. I always get a good chuckle watching and listening to you. True, true. I'll be laughing myself, y'all. I'll be cracking myself up over here. So give thanks for everybody who's tuned in. Monique says, was Rita faithful during the 8 months he was gone? Well, according to Bunny Wheeler, I don't. We have to go. We have to go revisit Mr. Bunny, because this is hearing is where the thing get a little questionable. No, the way Rita is acting, I can't say yes or no. She's just saying it was difficult for her. And I could only imagine you're married 2 days and the guy gone. Cool. But you kept going to the studio, even though he asked you to stop, which you didn't have to violate or cheat on him, but it look away. You know what I'm saying? I said it look away. So I say that to say, you know what we're gonna do? Take a 1 second. I know some people gonna be like, why you read what Bonnie and say, Mona? Where you do that for? But me I forgot do it. Me I forgot do it. Because me I forgot cross-reference this thing. Let we get welcome to the conversation. I would cringe hard if Rita and Bob were my parents. I mean, Monique said she would cringe. I mean, it's cringy, but as somebody who had to ask their parents certain questions to get an understanding, once you get past the cringe, it kind of gives understanding, even on the personalities, the different personalities of the children. Like Ziggy has a different personality than his sister or his brother, and there are reasons because wherever their parents were when they created it, just like the song, they was having a nice time, they made nice time. You know what I mean? But if he wasn't having a nice time, then he sing another song. You know what I mean? He shot the sheriff because it wasn't a nice time. And so, and if you were created in that way, you would probably have a different disposition or spirit on you, right? So I think it's telling because it helps you to understand why are you the way you are or why I am the way I am. But let me read a little bit of Bunny. I don't want to throw nothing in the pot, but we got cross-reference a little bit. I'm not going to go to the teeth and money part and all that. But this part I found interesting. He says, oh man, I can't even get my Bunny Wailer voice on right now because he be doing the most. Myself and Robert had already belonged to a family with my father, Mr. Thaddeus Livingston, and Robert mother, Miss Malcolm Booker. I'm trying to get my Bunny voice on. Prior to her being married and having a daughter named Pearl Livingston, of who I, Bunny Wheeler, and Robert Nestor Marley OM are Pearl's brother. So them share a sister, right? Prior, both Robert and myself. Why is he saying prior? The Wailers in 1964, professionally working with Coxsone Studio One, respectively. It wasn't until, this is Bunny's recounting, no, you know. It wasn't until, when they know, which about me there. The Wailers started to work for Coxsone Studio One in 1964 that Robert, Peter, and myself, Bunny, we know why you are talking, I say myself, Bunny. The Wailers, he make sure him want to know who is the Wailers, you know, were then acquainted to Rita, just having a baby. So he didn't even full stop. He just ran on with the entire sentence. Acquainted to Rita, just having a baby named Sharon, feeding from her mother Rita's breast while still in, wait, so Bunny has a lot to say. So Rita told us that when she first went to the studio, the baby was 5 months and she was still feeding from the breast, and she didn't first tell them, right? And her milk was leaking, and she was still in connection with the baby's father. And this is where she meets everybody. Now, this is what Bunny is asserting. In his run-on sentence, he's asserting that she was feeding the mother from her mother's breast while still inviting a member of the Wailers, Peter Tosh, to her, Rita's, sexual activities. So he's saying, this is crazy. We heard Rita say in an article that she always thought she was going to be with Peter. Whether it was a crush, it was infatuation, we don't know. Bunny is asserting that it went beyond that. And when she first got there, she had eyes on Peter and she wanted more. We can't substantiate that, but this is part of his rant, right? It says, then afterwards, it was Robert, having returned from US in 1966 after being married to Rita, who tried to invite Robert and even, he says himself, Bunny, to be the father of Sadella. So this storyline, this is why I said he may be getting the narrative a little mixed up. Reason being, they weren't privy to the fact that they were getting married. So again, like I said, I could see how he would have belly for her. You know what I mean? Secondly, maybe they're not even privy to all of the things that they're planning, right? Because he's saying, like, we were the Wailers. We was here first before she even came along. Now she came along. Robert goes to America. And now he's saying that Sadella, they're not sure. He's asserting that the paternity is not sure, in whom reality is Mortimer Planner. He's saying, like, where, that's left field, fam. Where are you getting this from? So he's making kind of all kind of salacious allegations. But in 1966, Sedella is not born. So that's where it's kind of like, okay, buddy, maybe your timeline is not right. Robert, in his frustration surrounding Sedella, and so basically, they're saying that the paternity issue didn't start with Stephanie. It started long, long time ago, according to him. And part of the reason, I think, is what we just read, where he says, don't go around the studio, don't go smoking, don't go doing anything. But she's around the studio when nobody else is there. So if dudes pop up and start saying stuff or talking reckless, how, except for Dream, how are they going to counteract that story, right? So I think she put herself in a precarious situation by still going around the studio. It says here, that's just my thoughts. I wasn't there. It says here, Robert, in his frustration surrounding Sedella, and with I also having counted as her dad already. How you come into this, Bunny? Set by Rita and Plano before Bunny Wailer returned from Richmond Farm Prison in 1968. So this is confusion all up in here. This part right here sounds like you jump from 66 to 68. It sounds confusing. Robert confused, you ain't the only one, Robert, by Rita's performance with her daughter Sedella, scared Robert into complete frustration, making him to remove his dreadlocks from his head, and threw down the ring, marriage certificate, and his trimmed dreadlocks that he removed from his head into the Caribbean Sea, which I, Bunny Wailer, hold as facts until Rita have proven otherwise for him, Bunny Wailer, to believe that she, Rita, is still a Marley. Now, this whole throw your ring into the sea part, Rita writes about it. So now I'm going to have to find where Rita writes about it, because Rita writes about this, but she doesn't give this as the backdrop as to why he told her to do that. So hold on. Let me run a little commercial real quick. A little commercial for those who just joined us. I'm going to come and see what's going on. But yeah, I'm going to come to see your questions in a second. Let me just try to pull this where it happened real quick. Island Twist follows Jackie Brown, a young girl who finds herself head over heels for the new island boy at school in fresh outer yard, and Jackie has the fever. But as she navigates the ups and downs of her new crush, things quickly spiral out of control when her not-so-secret admirer becomes determined to sabotage her relationship. So check out the new novel, Island Twist, over on Amazon today. Now back to the story. I'm gonna have to. If I can't find it this time, next time definitely. I don't even remember if I highlighted it. That they speak about this whole throwing, or is it Sedella that speaks about it? If anybody have the book and remember where it's at, drop it in the box for me. Help your girl out so we can pull this up and read it, because this whole throwing the ring in the sea thing, it's not only spoken about by Bunny Wailer. It is also spoken about elsewhere as well. Let me come to this comment real quick. And Rama, I think Bunny was trying to put together a book. I heard some stuff that he was talking about. I don't know if he did, but I do see that he put together an open letter. Let's see. It's a good thing that Bob got deported. If he had stayed in Delaware, no, yeah, you would have a different version of the person. You definitely would have had a different version of the person. And that's for anything that goes on with our life, right? You make a turn and then it's something else. I think it's in Sedella's book, and I want to say I highlighted it. Let me see. You really need to get Beverly Kelso. Yeah, she may have some input on the line. Yeah, a lot of bands usually break up. I mean, even Michael Jackson and his brothers broke up. I mean, after a certain time, that people want to have their own personal expression. And I think that's what was going on. After a while, they wanted to express themselves. I heard some that, we were singing Bob songs and we couldn't really express ourselves in the way we wanted to. I think Peter Tosh was saying that. And so So yeah, sometimes people want to express themselves how they want to express themselves, and they want to be able to grow from there. I'm gonna have to come back with that other one. We're gonna have to come back and revisit it, unless somebody could give me the page number right now. It's a shame, Peter and Buddy. Okay, trust. Think Bob working and going straight back to his mama yard. Sadella had a soft spot for side chicks. I can't right now. Did you catch the part where Don said Rita went up to Delaware in August? Yeah, I think that's off. And then Bob sent her back to Jamaica quick. I think that's off because how would she have gone up there? He didn't have no papers. How could he have filed for her? I do see that in the DOJ paperwork where she tried to preemptively file for paperwork, and it was like, yo, and then the officer asked them what happened. They said, well, she couldn't get it because my battery I'll run low. What? Computer try sabotage, right? Hold on, everybody, let me plug in this thing. They were saying that she couldn't get it. So I think Rita was anxious to leave, and in doing so, they kind of solved up the thing, you know? They kind of solved. So I don't think Don Taylor, that's one of the facts when I first started reading Don Taylor. I'm like, that's not correct, Don Taylor. Like, what are you talking about? Because who filed for her? How did she go up there? Wondering the same thing, mother. Yeah, the mother writes about the ring incident. I just have to look for it. I just have to look for it. So we're gonna come back and talk about the and Rita would have written if she went. Rita said she waited for 8 months till he came back. She didn't say she had a girl, she had a weekend trip and she came to America and came back. She said she was in America. She was waiting for him for 8 months to come back. So that, according to what she's saying, she didn't go to America. Say all the queens, all the queens. So we're gonna continue reading. I just have to stick a pin in that next situation. We'll come back and make a different video about the whole cutting off his locks and throwing it in the sea and infidelity question and all of that, right? So let's continue here. All right. As soon as Bob came home, I had to get to work. Music is art. How much time with it, Pan? 42 minutes. All right. Music is art, but it's also business. And all three of the Wailers were moving into writing songs and rehearsing. To keep the rights to their music, we had begun our own Waylon, Solum, the Wailers, and the Soulettes. And that's somebody told me, no, it was never Bob Marley and the Wailers. And that's why I put it up on the community board, because that on this record label, and someone else brought it to my attention that whoever was the lead, because I did see Peter Tosh and the Wailers as well. So whoever was the lead on the song, they would put their name and then put the backing singers. So at one point, we were actually producing, manufacturing our own records. I was still singing. Bob and I recorded a cover version around this time, along with Peter, Bunny, Cecile, and Hortense, of Hold On to This Feeling. But someone had to be going out to make sure the record shops and the radio stations had the records. You had to be on the streets to service them every day. We were still living at Auntie's house on Greenwich Park Road. And if you look at the cover on those records, you'll see 18A Greenwich Park Road on those records, right? Where she had added a room for us. Our bedroom faced the road. So in the daytime, Bob and I curtained off part of it and made the front into a little shop where we sold our 45, quote, dub plates. In those days, everything was on these 7-inch vinyl recordings. Some days we'll sell 3, some days 6, sometimes as many as 25 out of a cashier's booth, a little cage we'd constructed. I never imagined that cage as part of history, but there are 2 replicas of it now, one at the Bob Marley Museum in Kingston and another at the Universal Studios, Orlando, Florida. Remember when we read just now, the other day, Don Taylor said, Baba said, yeah, get her for the do tour done. We want done with her. And Don is like, you want to divorce her? Then you got to be serious. And then Bob remembers this time. Bob remembers, oh, she used to sell me record them, according to Don Taylor. Oh, she did that. She knows so bad. So he's remembering the start and then backing himself away from totally disposing of her. But at the same time, abusing her emotionally, sometimes physically along the way, right? I also made deliveries on my bike. Auntie was a bicycle rider, so she had trained me to do the same. Take the bike, run, go buy a needle, It was because of the bike and the shop that I found a woman friend for life, Minion Smith, later Phillips. When we met, I was still searching, looking for more strength to confirm my feelings of faith in Rastafari, and I saw Minion as a sister. Minion. God, my obsession on name Minion. That kind of weird. Minion as a sister who was already involved in struggle in Jamaica, where white supremacy and class barriers were so defined. Her mother's Jewish family had fled the Holocaust, and her father was Jamaican, and they lived uptown in middle class Kingston. Minion, called Minnie, was one of the first young women from that area to show any interest in Rasta, and as expected, her family thoroughly disapproved. Tall and beautiful and very militant, she used to come down to our shop to buy records. I liked her style, her sandy brown dreads, the way she carried herself. Seeing her in Trenchtown, I thought, wow, there goes a Rasta sister who looks confident and strong. So even though the men are bringing her into this conversation, she's looking for a sisterhood, right? So that she can feel secure in what it is that she is doing. Let me see what's going on here. Do 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 do. Oopsie. Jerry saying Bob heard things when him reached Bacayard and it disturbed him. I feel that's why him did tear R so publicly when him blow up. Yeah, possibly. The way he moved, it's kind of over the top. No, okay. Then it must be in Sedella's book. I'm gonna have to come back with that and like cross-reference that, because that whole throwing the took her to the sea and she was crying. I'm remembering it. I just have to remember where it is in the order. She was crying. He took her to the sea and then forced her to. They tore up the marriage certificate. That may be why he keeps saying he ain't married, and threw it in the thing. Now Bunny adds the whole locks situation to the situation. I don't know. But we do know something happened in the interview. I get the interview when he's sitting talking to that reporter. Um, there's something happened in that interview, because when the interview asks is, can your woman have many man? And he said, no. So guess what? When I come talk about that, and we come back on that topic, yeah, I have to find back the interview and make we watch it and make we see. Because it looks like at that time something happened, right? We can only surmise. Let's go, and then I'm gonna wind down. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and rocking up with me with this impromptu live. You understand? Impromptu. Let's see here. Wish I today. That strength was so appealing. During those early 60s years, being young and female and endorsing Rastafari was a sure way to become an outcast and seen as crazy and strange, even more so than the men. But like them, Minnie, the only other young Rasta woman I'd met so far, and I were simply searching for a way out of discrimination and rejection we felt all around us, and trying to understand that we were not from the nowhere in which we felt stranded, but had a heritage in Africa, that we had roots. Lastly, she says, sometimes I'd get on my bike and meet Sister Minnie part way between Trenchtown and where she lived. And we'd talk about Black Power, Malcolm X, Angela Davis, Miriam Makeba. To make extra money, I was making dashikis. And so why you never do that before, Rita? When you hear Fino Guy Studio, how come you never did make a dashiki before? I was making dashikis, and she take them uptown with the bead jewelry she made and sell them at the university. Over the years, she had given me a lot of strength and support, but we had a link at first. Sometimes you meet somebody and you know right away, wow, you're going to be friends for a long time. Okay? So we're going to come there. We are almost at 1 hour mark on this here conversation. I'm trying to see if that closes that subject. No, it don't close the subject. Let me close the subject. Late one afternoon, riding home from a record shop in Halfway Tree, which is more than 3 miles from Trenchtown, I was, no, not me, she, got mine out all your talk. She was hit by a car and thrown from the bicycle. In my carrier on the back, she had a lot of records to be delivered from orders they'd gotten from Wayland Solem Records. So this is again what Bob is remembering, why he's like, nah, he ain't gonna divorce her, right? Like, remember the time? It says, I was more embarrassed than frightened because I was accustomed to this daily 3 mile ride from Trenchtown to Crossroads and from Crossroads to Halfway Tree. Sometimes I go back downtown Kingston too, where all the famous record shops were like Randy and KJ's. Everybody knew me. Everybody looked out for me. Oh, Rasta Queenie come. What records you have for us today? I was a favorite because we were carrying new stuff and was in demand. And a little of the Wailers, a little of the Solettes. So it was very exciting. Right? It seems like what we're coming from the Whaler side, even in Bunny Whaler's letter, they kind of like trying to diminish her part or in the situation, but she's making sure to let the people know that, hey, I had an active role in the part. I may have not been there since 64, but when she entered into the equation, she had an active role. I think this is what she is illustrating for us. And it's important to know because people will act like, you never do nothing yet and you just come, right? And I was so young and full of enthusiasm, carefree. You couldn't be carefree. What happened to your pitney? Why were you carefree, Rita? Where's Sharon? Talking about you was carefree. She said, sorry, side comment. Wish about me there. And I was so young and full of enthusiasm, carefree and happy despite being poor, and loving every moment of my life and thinking one day we're going to be somebody, or one day we'll have money, or one day we're gonna have enough to eat. So you see that one of Rita's that's why the mother says, oh, Rita loved money. Rita loved, actually Sedella said that. I think we read that the last time, right? But Rita seems to be focused on what may have been a lack in her life, right? What may be a lack in her life. So what she's looking at is this is all going to pay off in the end. This is what I'm getting from her, right? Eating specifically, what am I going to cook for our dinner tonight was exactly what I've been thinking about when the car knocked me over. So she had ride and all, I think, bold, what am I going to eat? It had never occurred to me that I might stop concentrating on the road when it happened. I was totally surprised and frightened. Why had this happened to me? By then, people on the street were used to seeing me. So all around me, I heard, Queenie, your records. Did they say Queenie, your records? Not Queenie, them picture down the ground. Backside Queenie, do all I record them dip on the ground. I can't. You gotta love our people. Queenie, your records. Queenie, you all right? First or after, everyone tried to help me. People gathered in the streets. Queenie man, you no fear ride the bicycle. Queenie man, you forget you no care. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's true. I'm gonna stop doing this. I'm gonna give this over to one of the guys. I'd hurt myself too, but I was just glad the accident hadn't been fatal. And when Bob saw me and saw that the bicycle looked like, that was the day I stopped riding to sell records. And so in Don Taylor's story, Bob is saying that she not only carried the records, that the records were cutting her in her shoulder. Let me see if I can get that because that's a little cross reference. I haven't done my cross referencing today. He was saying that, oh, the records was cutting her in her shoulder. Which shot with there? He says, if you want a divorce, I can handle it. I can get you a lawyer, but if you're gonna divorce Rita, you got to cut it off clearly. You can't be tiptoeing in and out of our room at night when everybody is asleep and gone to bed. This is Don Taylor supposedly talking to Bob because Bob want to kick off Rita. Shout out Monique Anderson for the super chat. Support the thing. Because the more you support the thing, and the more books we can go read. You see me? Come on, buy some more books. You got to stop that. Bob grinned in that special way of his, looked at me and did a about face. He said, but she's not a bad girl. Because I remember the days when she used to carry my records on her shoulder, and her shoulder used to cut from the box of records where she used to carry with through the hot Kingston sun and dirt. So we see and hear that according to Don Taylor is bearing witness to what was just said here, that Rita was going back and forth with the records in the street, And Bob is using that as a reason to say, oh well, she not so bad, she not so bad, she not so bad. So that's where we up to right now. We're gonna have to come back on that whole tear up thing, because I definitely think that something happened. Shout out to Stacy and oh, I super stop chicken in the house. Y'all have me. I did a little Garvey video, and I'm like, no, don't go down the trail. Don't go down the trail. And then I went a little bit down the trail, and I was like, no, let me finish up this Bob Marley thing right here. Because what in the world? Amy Garvey won? That's all I got to say. But I'm not going to go down the trail, y'all. I'm going to stick to it, and I'm going to finish up this Rita Marley thing. So shout out to you guys, Stacey Ann Jones. Shout out for the super sticker. How do you know she had different sexual partners? Yeah, I don't know. Oh, y'all are talking. I don't know what I'm going to binge on after this series. I'm like saying to myself, Sean Ellis, I ain't even gonna lie. I'm like, yo, this series, because it has so much content between Sedella's book, between Don Taylor's book, between Kamani, even though I didn't read a lot of Kamani's book, between Rita Marley's book, it has so much wealth of information. Yeah, I'm not gonna hold you. This series was litty. This series is litty. Shalom, welcome to the conversation, Tamika. Welcome. I know I'm off topic, but all the intermixing of so many sexual partners had to be itchy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened in this space. All I know is that it don't look good, and possibly some susus guan, some conversation guan, something that turns Bob's spirit and it goes left. Something happens because the mother is telling the same story. Like I said, I'll come back with that story next time. Even though they loved each other and wanted to do things right, their trauma is always there. It is. She has anxiety. He has abandonment issues. She has abandonment issues. I said that from day one. They both have issues. So the minute they're triggered, they're going to go look for comfort in the way that they know, right? And so you often hear when Rita's alone, she's looking for comfort, right? The eye tree outfits are imperial to see. Yeah, man, the eye tree outfit them. When you see them from head to toe, man, the eye trees was doing their thing. Okay, Animal Ranger says Don, Peter, and Bunny tell lies on Rita. Feel free to share, because we like to cross-reference which ones are the lies. Like the other day when I read Don Taylor, I also read Sedella. Actually, I read them in succession. So I read Don Taylor first, then I read Sedella, then I read No Woman, No Cry, and then I'm like, okay, find a lie. So I'm not saying they didn't. I'm just saying in what way. And someone said, yo, Muna, go back and listen to Catch a Fire. Let's just say there's an interview floating around where Marley Booker was upset. She was pissed with Timothy White, the writer of Catch a Flyer, like, oh, him come and interview me. And if I did know, I would talk to him because my son did tell me, to tell him, say, no. According to her story, all the time the man was asking about Bob's mother. Bob told him that Sedella was in Africa. Really, Bob? So finally, the man meets up with Sedella, and then he interviews her, and then he goes and writes this book, Catch a Fire. And when she reads the book, she is pissed. But there's some parts that I'm saying to myself, it lines up exactly with what she said. So I'm like, you had to have given him this information. Now, did he embellish? Did he do some type of extra stuff? Yes. One of the things I found, and this is maybe off the topic, but is that she's saying, Timothy White said in Catch a Fire that Bob was at the courthouse when with the bigamy trial. I'm like, huh? Because when Sedella tells the story, Bob is not there. So I think that was a curious, and there are some other curious things like how he went missing and Miss Gray. According to the story, his story, Miss Gray is melanated. Miss Gray is a heavy-set Black woman who was sickly, but that's not how I thought Miss Gray looked based on the way Sedella described her. So again, that cross-reference right there, I'm not going to go all the way down that rabbit hole, but I would say that's interesting between the two. Shout out to Empress. Empress says she want more reading. You listen, y'all, I had to jump on here and do this live. I kind of like reading live because it takes me twice as long to do the reading when I'm pre-recording it, because I have to record it, then upload it. And so I was running short on time, but I'm glad I did it this way because then everybody could get the live reading. everybody could get the live reading. Wagwan Leah, we're gonna wind down right now. So shout out to everybody who support the thing. We definitely gonna continue with the readings. The Marley lives are quite interesting. They are very animated people. And again, different aspects. I think part of what it is that I see different aspects of people that I know in them, right? And pieces of my story and just the Caribbean experience in their story, right? So it makes them familiar to look and assess because it's not so distant. We can kind of identify with some of the stuff that was going on with them. Yeah, the beach incident. Right? I'm about to go over my paperwork and go and find the beach incident because I know I saw that. I know I saw that. Yeah, I was looking at the Amy Garvey. Just listening to Amy Garvey, I was looking at the Amy Garvey situation. I found some Gleaner articles. Maybe I'll share those because what in the world? What in the world? I know I did a Marcus Garvey video the other day, and somebody was like, "You coming for Marcus?" Listen, Marcus showed us that he was able to look at what other people were doing and analyze it. He didn't shy away from it. I found early Gleaner articles from 1914, 1915, and Marcus is out here analyzing in Jamaica and criticizing the leaders of the day. And there was pushback. There was people writing back to say, "Hey, I don't agree, and this is the reason why." So I found that his letter to the West Indies was interesting, and I just shared what I thought was not necessarily considered in the way in which he presented the information, right? And so I think revisiting this stuff, just like revisiting Bob Marley, is helpful so that we can clear the air. Some of us don't know. Some of us is brand new to this information. A lot of the elders who knew this information, they're old and they've passed on, right? And so unless we revisit it, it's going to also be lost to time, right? So it's there for us to learn, and I think it's a benefit. So definitely, Amy Garvey is piquing my interest right now because I don't know if I realized before the way that they're saying that the second Amy Garvey was the bridesmaid to the first Amy Garvey when she got married. And then after she divorced, the second Amy Garvey married Garvey. I'm like, what? Hold on. Oh, what kind of mix up this? What kind of mix up is this? What kind of mix up is this? Your cross-referencing skills is par none. You found Bob Marley's. Yeah, man, Sean. You know, what I find out. That's how I study. And sometimes people like Amuna, you. That's just kind of how my mind works. Is like, and then it brings it all together. And I kind of try to like look at the thing like a Rubik's cube, right? I could be like, yeah, me like Bob Marley, I me like reggae music, I don't want to listen to nothing else. I hear nothing else, but that's not going to get to the truth, right? And so how can I learn if I'm not willing to see it from all angles and all sides? And so that's kind of how I approach it. And I'm glad you guys appreciate it. You know what I mean? And I like to share my sources so that if you come behind me and you want to do your own research, it's there. You know what I mean? So there's a beautiful thing. I'm glad that you guys here rocking with me and can appreciate it. I'm glad for that. Rita read Don Taylor for filth in her book. I mean, look, Don Taylor, what's going on, Earl? Don Taylor, like I said, Don Taylor says this of himself. It's like, and he said this before Rita said anything about him, before Sadella. He said he's a scammer. He said he's a hustler. Maybe we'll have to read a little bit of Don Taylor's introduction. He said he was over here, you know what I mean, doing chopping the line, like how he had to survive and how he was the son of a white man who had to be on the streets hustling. Like Don Taylor is not hiding this thing. So I'm not caping for him, but he's not hiding that he's a bit of an unscrupulous character. You know what I mean? He's kind of telling us. The comments in your Garvey said he was born the same time as Noble. Yeah, they're from the same time period. I made some corrections there. So one correction I had to make was Malcolm X's mother wasn't from St. Croix. I mean Virgin Island. I was thinking another Caribbean island, but it's Grenada. So that one is corrected. And when I read Garvey and he put Booker T next to Frederick Douglass, I transposed the two. I meant to say Frederick Douglass was on the abolitionist network. I said Booker T, and it was like, Amuna, I know Booker T. So I'm like, yo, I put it up there so that you guys know. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, City was in her feelings over Catch a Fire. We're gonna watch that a little bit while we at another time, but she was vexed. She was vexed over Catch a Fire. They blame Rita for mashing up the Whalers. I could see how they would do that based on how the story plays out, right? Based on how Bunny is coming, based on the fact that Bob told her not to go around there, based on the fact that she said she wanted Peter first. I could see how it's like, oh, a girl came in and mashed up our thing, right? But not really, but I could see how they could feel that way. I think she had a crush on Peter. No, she did. Nothing happened. Bunny was dreaming. But I think I told y'all, I played the thing and somebody was like, Amuna, it's a cover song. If it's a cover song, can you tell me what song they were covering with that song, that track, The Vow? What song is that? What song is that? So Bunny, she was doing, and I shared that she was doing covers, she was doing tracks with Bunny, and she was doing solos with Peter. So anybody been to the studio? It's dark in there. They're young. You're singing these love songs. People could catch feelings. How many times have producer caught feelings for the people they're working with? Much less the two people who singing together. I mean, it happens. It happens. I ain't saying that it didn't. I ain't saying that it did. I'm just saying it happens. I think they all a little lie. I think so, but we've caught Brother Bob in a couple of untruths. You know, when you look a bit and you can't say lie. We've caught Brother Bob in a couple of untruths. So I don't think it's beyond the scope for him to justify some untruths when the time permits, right? I don't. In some places, I don't think Rita is fully forthcoming in the way and she's telling the story. You know what I mean? I think so because they said Peter Tosh didn't date dark skinned women. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. He himself was highly melanated, so you know. Okay, I really can't stand the double standard in Jamaican culture towards men and women. Men destroy women's reputations, throw in dirty water. They will lie on you for turning them down. This is also true. This is why I'm saying it could even be the perception. It didn't even mean she did something. It could be the perception of her doing something or the perception of her being compromised. You understand me? I say it doesn't mean that she actually did it. So Sedella says different things. She does. That's what I'm saying. This Miss Gray character, somebody said, Muna, why you bring up Miss Gray for? Because she peculiar, man. Me wonder what did happen to Miss Gray. Me not understand. For those who missing it, you're gonna have to go to the back to the playlist to find out who Miss Gray is. Let's see. Oh, shout out to Sean Ellis. Give thanks, Sean. Yeah, well, me have to go run down Amy Garvey book because I was looking for it. It looked like it was out of print. And I'm trying to find to see that book she wrote later on, to see whether or not we're gonna go into this conversation. I appreciate it. White and black is different than people in foreign. Yeah, this is a whole different demographic of and culture of how you relate to people, classes, and systems, and even at that time period. So it's a lot to learn. Bob reminds me of my grandpa. You see, just how he talks. Yep, I tell you, I know somebody who act just like him, mannerisms and everything. Do more lives, it works out easier for you. Thank you, growing up Jamaican. I think it does. I think it does because, like I said, if I'm running out of time like today, then I'm like, either I'm not going to do a video or I'm going to have to throw up this live. And I was like, I'll throw up a live, yeah. So thank you for that. If as time permits, Let me see. Yep, my grandfather told me that this is one of the nasty strategies of Jamaican men is to talk bad about you and soil your rep. What a wickedness, see? Good thing that woman have developed thicker skin. This series is better than the movie. No, man, that series just sweet me. Me not lie. But that's why I was like, wait, me not get me fixed today. Me need to go read some more book. Yep. What happened at the beach? Y'all gonna have to wait to find out the beach. I gotta go backtrack my steps and make sure I got the beach situation. But I think spiritually, they felt it was sufficient that they spiritually divorced, and it may be at different times because Bob looks like he spiritually divorced, and I'm using that loosely. Rita, way before Rita spiritually divorced him. Rita's talked spiritual divorce like around the tacky time, right? But Bob looks like he was having them feelings before that time. And I guess the way in which he was treating her made her feel like, you know what, forget this. So, that's that. Lynette said, don't trust Dan Taylor. Tell we, talk to we now. Talk. Dan Taylor was chopping the line. He was. Homie was chopping the line. We gonna read a little bit about his scams he was running. He said he was running scam. Homie was the original chopper. No lie, no lie, no lie. Let me see here. Y'all are funny, man. It's the African in Bob that made him leave after 2 days. Doesn't mean he doesn't love his queen. That's why she's the queen today. No, I mean, I guess they was trying a thing. Like I said, the immigration officer said, "Bro, who did you consult? Like, who gave you this? Who gave you this plan? Like, who told you to get married 2 days before you left?" So somewhere along the line, if Rita was like, "Yo, you gonna leave me and you not coming back for me," somewhere along the line, it must have been like this is the thing to do. You understand me? I said, I don't know. Somebody gave you a bad advice. Animal says no more Garvey videos. You don't like Garvey? No more Garvey videos. I think it's quite interesting. Garvey is the backdrop for Bob Marley. It's the backdrop for Rastafari, right? Like we wouldn't even be having this conversation if we're not assessing what happened during the time of Garvey. And the reality is, Black Panthers, a whole lot of movements took cues from what was going on with Garvey. So I think as it relates to history, because we're talking about a period in history, Garvey is a central figure, good, bad, or indifferent. You know what I mean? Garvey is a central figure. And there's another thing I had done video many years ago, but Garvey's movement comes on the back of another movement, which was it was a time a couple of years ago on the internet when reparations talk was big, right? This is how I usually get down these rabbit holes. And somebody tapped me because they know I like research, and it was like, "Yo, Amuna, they going in on all things Caribbean," and I was like, "What? Why? That don't make no sense. Like, what's going on?" So when I look, it's like, oh, the thought is that Caribbean people or people that are not from mainland America didn't help or didn't contribute in any way, right? And so I started to research the reparations movement that happened in the late 1800s, early 1900s, by a woman. A woman was the lead of that movement. They had galvanized. She was doing what Garvey was doing before Garvey came to America, right? And her thing was starting chapters all throughout, going to churches, public speaking network. Her name is Callie House. I have the book over here. And why I'm bringing this up is because a lot of people don't know that that's the backdrop to Garvey. The reason why the people were primed for Garvey when he came is because right when he came to America, they wanted to bring her down because she wanted to sue the American government for reparations for those who were enslaved. So long story short, they got her on mail fraud, the same thing they did to Garvey less than 10 years later. So this is part of American history that is important to know, because when Garvey came, he didn't really foresee that these are the things that was already happening. So a lot of her people, they were left looking for where they're going to go next. And when Garvey starts going on these speaking networks, there are a lot of the people that was in these reparations movement trying to get monies from the government who were ready to look for another option. And Garvey came right at the right time and started talking, African for Africans. And a lot of them went over to the Garvey movement. Like, so when you say no more Garvey videos, I'm like, why not? Because without Garvey having this conversation, we couldn't get to Bob and Rita in the way in which we did. You know what I mean? We wouldn't get to Pinnacle. We wouldn't get to look to the East, for the coming of a Black king. We wouldn't get to all of those conversations. So I think it's important. Let me know. I'm going to keep going. Do. I went left. I'm back now, y'all. I'm back. I'm hurting inside. He sounded like he was hurting on that one. Totally agree. I have the experience. I confronted the liar and told him. Low light in the studio create romantic vibes. Yeah, we're gonna get another book. No worries, man. We're gonna get another subject that we could, we could explore because it's all part of the history. You know what I mean? I just like learning about how we got here. You know what I mean? So for one set a whole long time, all I did was study American history in this enslavement period. And then I started to study what was happening in the Caribbean because it's like you wouldn't have to need a Garvey or a liberation movement or if you weren't oppressed. So then I want to know, well, how did we get oppressed? You understand me? I say so. This is kind of how so that we can know the choices that we're making now is going to get us closer to or further away from what it is we're trying to do. You know what I mean? So it's important to study the length and breadth of the thing. Yeah, they was over there in the studio. Let me see here, peoples. Who's Skill Cole? Um, Alan Skill Cole is Bob Marley's friend. He's the soccer player who says that he was the only one who was not on Bob's payroll, and he's still alive. He said he's going to write a book, so we waiting. And he's the friend to Bob who says he knows Bob differently than most people, and so that's who Alan Skill Cole is. Bob had those feelings in 1971 when he breathed to other. Yeah, he was. Hey, listen, he was on a mission in 1971. Rita says 1971 was the worst year. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. But 1971, she said, was the worst year. So clearly something was popping off in their life in 1971. Oh, we're going to do that. We are going to explore the situation with Auntie. I think that might be coming up next. Y'all are funny. Oh, no, now make we come off of this bad thing. No, Natalie. Merciful Father. Yeah, we're gonna go on the part there. I don't think we got to it yet because we're gonna read Rita talking about how Auntie and Bob was beefing, kind of, and she used to call him the boy. So I think when we get to that part, then it's gonna be making that connection will make more sense of why he thought that, because him and Auntie didn't get along. I need to find my uncle and chat to him about his experience with Bob's mother. Yeah, I'm saying talk to the elders now. I love Garvey. Garvey is an interesting character. I think Garvey is interesting, and even just revisiting it, I'm like, sometimes things happen in your childhood, and then that is what motivates you to do what you do in adulthood. And I think that was also the case with Garvey's experience, that really pushed him to be on the track that he was, sometimes to his own detriment, right? So it's something to be learned from there too. Yeah, I don't think he meant to stay in America, but they meant to come, because then why marry Rita to come and then don't come? You know what I mean? Let's see. Yep, there was a brain drain in Jamaica. There was. And I think in the beginning, that's what Garvey was talking about, that his generation, the ones born in the 1880s, thereabouts, when they came of age, they left. They went to England. He went to England. I found a paperwork where a Gleaner article where they was like, "Oh, congratulate Garvey. He went to England to do his bachelor's, but then he came back the next year. He's like, oh, I'm back." You know what I'm saying? So yeah, a lot of everybody left and went to their own respective places. Exactly. Malcolm X's father was a Garveyite. So you can't get Nation of Islam without Garvey. You can't get led later on certain type of movements without this conversation. You know what I mean? It's a key component to the whole thing. I would like a better understanding of the three whalers and why they broke up. Which of your videos or books is best for that? Did we go over that yet? I mean, there's a Peter Tosh interview. I can't think of it right now, the exact name, but Peter Tosh goes into why he feels as though they needed to branch out and do their own thing. That they, for 10 years, was being the backing vocals and supporting Bob and singing the songs he wanted to sing. And Peter had expression that he wanted to be able to express, and he wasn't able to do so under the constraints. Bonnie said he didn't want to travel and he didn't want to go in a freaky, freaky club, quote unquote. And so Bonnie, after the tour, when they were in England and they were supposed to come to America, Bonnie said him done and him come off a tour. And then Peter stayed a little bit, and then he came off the tour, and they had to get Joe Higgs and them to go on the tour and finish the tour. And basically everybody was leaving Bob, and then ultimately Bob, they try to make it work until they bring in Rita and the I Trees. Well, all the I Trees, and then they now become, the backing vocals. Doo 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 doo. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Okay. Marcia says she wants to move on from Marley. I think I heard that, but I don't remember. I would have to go back and look at that one. I would have to go look on that one. Yep, a series should have done this story justice. Yeah, if they did the story in a series, then it would have been time enough to tell it. It's not going to be time enough in the what they got. So hopefully they'll take what the audience is saying and what the people want to hear, and they can come back. It's not like you only could get one thing on it. They can definitely come back and do it proper. You know what I mean? It's in their hands to do. The beach incident. No, I'm gonna look for the beach incident. No worries, man. Prudent man. I'm gonna look for the beach. What time now? 10 o'clock. Let's see here. This is all interconnected. You're absolutely right. Marcus Garvey is the connection, is the bridge for many things. Yeah, I think he is. I mean, listen, this is, some people we all came here for different reasons, right? But to put this much energy into it, we have to, no, we don't have to, but it behooves us to say, okay, what is the lesson from all of this? How can we learn from all of this? What can we transmit to the next generation? Because if another person or another generation comes up and thinking they're doing something that never was done, that's one thing you can see. What did Rita said? She said, I was reading, I was researching, I was seeing whether or not, X, Y, and Z. Another thing is, you see Nesta reading, you see them involved, you see promotion of history and knowing certain things, so that you can kind of see where you are in this timeline, and not just like, oh, I have a brand new idea that's never been done before. And it's like, yeah, they did it already. Okay, why did it work now? Why didn't it work? You understand what I say? Like, how could you do better? What would you change? Yeah, man, no worry, man. I continue with Garvey because me like a conversation. Yep. What you need to talk to the Garveyites in Jamaica to get the true story. From what and I'm gonna share some stuff. It looks like it began to deviate from what he started from to what it became. And naturally a movement is gonna grow, it's gonna ebb, it's gonna flow, it's gonna take shape, right? But I think when he came to America, because even he was like, when I came to America, I was just trying to raise money, but he saw it more, America more receptive to what it is that he was saying, more so than Jamaica was at that time. So then eventually he now stays here. They bid him, oh, stay and be the president and of the chapter here. And so he stays here. And then this is kind of how it takes shape and form from there. Why she said Bob was the Beyonce of the group. I think I heard him say, I think I did hear him say that. Actually, I heard Skill Cole said it. No, I think someone else was sitting next to them and said the story, and then Skill Cole looked at him like, "Yo, bro, why did you say that?" So yeah, I did hear him make that, I guess, agreement that that was going on, that they had to kind of bogart people to play their stuff. Yep, brain drain. So then you have to ask what was going on there, and then what was the result of it, and is that why the condition is what it is today? My vote is for Garvey because so many claim him. You have a gift and wanna give thanks. You're called to bring the originators into the digital age. Yeah, me love going to archives, me not lie. It's interesting to me. Even today I was looking for Amy Garvey and I found that they have her birthday wrong because I saw her birth certificate, her parents, and most people, the first one, Amy Garvey one, and they're saying that she was born on the, what is that, the 10th? Well, the birth certificate said the 18th of January. You know what I mean? Which I found curious. I was like, okay, you know these are the little things that you can cross reference and kind of like, okay, maybe we popularly thought this, but that wasn't the case. It's a small detail, it's a detail nonetheless. You know what I mean? Yeah, man, get the likes up. I'm not even over there right now, but definitely y'all get the likes up. Thank everybody for sharing. I'm gonna just go through the last of these comments and then I'm gonna wrap it up. Right. How do we connect? If there's no connection without your past, you don't know where you're going. Cause you're going to loop. You know what I mean? So it's sometimes people like, oh, history is boring and that back of time, and but then we find ourselves in the same places and the same paths our ancestors walked, not knowing why we're back here again. You know what I mean? Why we're going through the same challenges again is because whatever lessons, what kind of assumptions. This is why you look back and say, okay, what did you learn? Where did you go wrong? If you could do it over again, would you? What would you change? It's all about perfecting. Garvey's writings doesn't help the West Indies identity. More than 100 years later, African Americans are calling West Indians docile. Docile? That's interesting. Oh, huh? Huh? I mean, more specifically, again, the West Indies had different taskmasters. Haiti's story is different than Jamaica's story. It's different than those who are under the Dutch and those who are under the French and those who are under the British. So if we just try to put them all together and say this is the case, it's not necessarily gonna be hold true when we begin to examine it. So really to even look at, one time I was just obsessed, like, why are Jamaicans so interestingly over the top? Right? And I keep saying I'm gonna wind down, right? But I'm gonna leave it here. And I'm like, yo, there's something in it. So then you begin to do the research because they ain't teaching us this in school, especially not in American schools. And you begin to do the research and you're like, oh, this had to do with the slave trade practices. This had to do with them knowing what tribes they were getting and dropping certain tribes who were known to be cantankerous, known to be fighters, known to be fierce warriors. They didn't want to, quote, like, corrupt the more docile slaves. So when it says the Caribbean is docile, I'm like, Jamaica got, for lack of better words, the people who would not comply. So they're like, we're not bringing them to our nice place. We are not bringing them to America. We're going to drop the ones who was causing problems right here. And that's when you see a lot uh, of the tribes that cause problems. Namely, one is the Comoranti. They came from the Comoranti port um, on the continent, and they called them Comoranti Negroes. And um, they had to write letters. They had to put in legislation to no longer bring in any more of these Comoranti Negroes because them coming here and them causing problems. Okay, and when they had these ship manifests that I've read, you see this amount of Igbos and this amount of Fulani and this amount of Ashanti, and what they did with their breeding practices is like, okay, we're going to take a hot-tempered one and try to bring it with a more docile one or a more XYZ one to kind of bring down the temperament. And so when you look at Jamaica amongst the backdrop of the Caribbean, without that history and understanding why the temperament of the people are like that, you would just think, yo, Jamaicans are wild and I don't know why they're wild. No, there's a reason why they behave the way in which they do. And so that's a real thing. That's a real thing. Yeah. Yep. All right, Marcia, I'm about to go to my bed too. Everybody, I figured out Gerdine. Okay. Keep doing the research. I agree. History is interesting. It is. Yeah, hopefully, yeah, pass it on to the youth because I them need for know. I them need for push forward with the information. First of all, another thing about the Caribbean, there was a time in America when a lot of the insurrections was happening in the Caribbean that sailors from the Caribbean could not disembark. They put laws, this the Noir Code, which is the black laws, where they just made up laws as they went along here in on the mainland. They put this in like you cannot disembark, you cannot come off the ship because they did not want these sailors from these places to have conversations and discourse with the people so that they may, corrupt their minds. So there was a lot that went on to first separate the two so that the two shall never meet and kind of poison both pots. So one will think that the other is docile and the other one they think that the other one is uncouth. Like there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that went on that brought us to this point. Professor Muna, you need Caribbean 101. For real, innit? Not a thing that's about Jamaica. There was a video floating around. I'll leave it at this. I don't know if you guys saw this years ago. There was a Bayesian about the Bayesian school system and kind of the beef between, and it shouldn't be, but it was coming from then between Barbados and Jamaica, because remember Barbados is like was supposed to be like the crown in the Caribbean, like they were England's project. You understand me? I said, and therefore I saw a Bayesian woman one time come on say that they were taught to think ill of Jamaicans and that Jamaicans is kind of like the Tiger eggs of X. I said, I always knew something was strange. And she came on, if I find that video again, I'll share it. She came on and said that this is something that they were taught. Interesting stuff. But I'll leave it right there. I want to thank everybody for coming on. We at 1 hour and 32 minutes in. So everybody bless up yourself. Don't worry, we'll find the things that I thought I said, and I will drop the links in the box if I come across them again, and then we'll come back next time. All right. So everybody, thank everybody who showed up, and everybody have a blessed night.